In today's Back to Life segment, we will talk to a patient of the Bonati Spine Institute who went from living a life that was restricted by pain and discomfort through their journey of finding the Bonati Spine Institute and are now living pain-free.
So on the line from Newport, North Carolina, I have Tim Turner on the phone, a patient of the Bonati Spine Institute. He received the Bonati Spine procedures. He's on the line, so thank you for joining us.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you for taking the time to join us on the radio program.
No, thank you.
And we're interested in hearing about the different lumbar surgeries you had. What brought on the pain that you were in? Kind of walk us through the process. What caused it?
Well, about 22 years ago, I had an accident, fell about 40 feet to concrete, and pretty much got well from that over about a 2-year period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, over time, things just started degenerating. And in 2011, I really started having lower back pain, and it began to affect my work and a few other things. And so I went up to Duke Medical Center and had a L5, S1 partial laminectomy, and that was somewhat successful. And basically, about a year later, I went to a rheumatologist who did an adjustment on my spine, and he re-herniated the disc and herniated a couple of discs above that. And it really, really put me down, and that was in December. And I was out of work from December until I went to Bonati in the 1st of April.
Now you talk about coming to Dr. Bonati, but if we can backtrack just a teeny bit, did you try to do any conservative methods for your back problem?
I had epidural injections. I went through facet joint injections, pain management, of course. They loaded me up on pain pills. And basically, I did physical therapy, just about the whole gamut of anything you can think of, they put me through. And none of it was successful at all. It just, actually, most of it made it a little bit worse.
Tim, you told us that before your injury was re-aggravated, that it originally came from a fall 40 feet onto concrete.
That's correct.
Did that happen on the job? What line of work are you in?
Yeah, well, I'm in the line of computer work now because obviously I couldn't do construction anymore. At that time, I owned a roofing company, and I cut a hole in the roof and covered it with tar paper, and I walked right off into it.
Oh man! So after they re-aggravated your back issues, how did you find the Bonati Spine Institute?
Well, the company I own now, basically, it was my bookkeeper. She went down and had surgery on her L5S1. And she come back and told me how great it was and that she drove herself back from Tampa. And I'm like, you did what? She's like, yeah, I drove myself back from Tampa 2 days after my surgery. I'm like, I don't believe you. So she basically kept giving him praise. So I went to several spine surgeons here, 2 orthopods and 1 neurosurgeon, and they basically all told me the same thing. My only hope was spinal fusion, and that I would be in pain management the rest of my life, taking pain pills, et cetera, and that just was not an acceptable thing for me because I'm too young to retire and go on disability, and that just weren't an option.
How old are you?
I'm 44.
Okay. Yeah, so a very young man being told that he's going to have to be on pain meds for the rest of his life. So like you said, that wasn't an option. When you're talking about the type of pain and what you felt, why don't you describe that to the listeners?
When it very first started, it was basically just a back pain, and it would radiate out just a little bit into my butt. And progressively, before I had my first surgery, it would, go down my leg, and finally it got all the way down into my foot, and it was like a burning, aching, burning, foot would tingle a little bit. I had the surgery at Duke, and like I say, over about a period of 6 months, I healed to about 90%. I was able to go back to work, do most anything I wanted to, but I still had a little bit of pain left.
Okay.
And then after I was re-aggravated by the adjustment, instantly that very day, it was burning all the way to my foot. It felt like my leg was on fire. It was intense pain, debilitating to the point that I couldn't work. I couldn't function. I couldn't do anything more than about 20 feet and my leg would collapse out from under me, and I couldn't even walk. So, doing my job, which is crawling under desks, taking care of people's stuff, I do doctor's offices and everything else in the IT world. So it was just impossible for me to do my job with that much pain.
Tim, tell us a little bit about when you initially contacted the Bonati Spine Institute and how you were evaluated. Walk us through that.
Well, I contacted them and asked them, was I a candidate? And of course, asked about everything and insurance and whatnot. And they wanted me to send the MRI down. So I sent the MRI down. They viewed the MRI and instantly called me back and said, yeah, you're a candidate. We can help you. Mm-hmm. I'm like, well, okay. So, everybody has a little bit of reservations when you're going to somewhere you don't know that much about.
Right.
But fortunately, I have a cousin that is a trauma surgeon in a hospital in North Carolina. And so I gave him a call and I said, well, search this guy out and find out if he's really what he's advertised. Mm-hmm. And so about a week later, he called me back and he said, Tim, that's exactly where you need to go. This guy is fixing people. You need to go there. Mm-hmm. And so I went.
Were you aware at that time that he was the one that invented minimally invasive laser spine surgery? I mean,
No, not at all.
It was open back surgery and then the Bonati spine procedures. So he was integral in changing spine surgery forever. So I'm glad you found your way to the Bonati Spine Institute. Why don't you walk us through from the point where you actually walked through the door?
Well, when I came in, I met Paul,
mm-hmm.
and he was very nice. He introduced himself, and he gave me a little name tag, and
mm-hmm.
my friend that came with me gave him a name tag. He walked me back and introduced me to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, as I went through the procedure of going through the clinic and getting examined and all that stuff, the first thing I noticed is everybody had a smile on their face. As many doctor's offices as I've been in, I've never, ever been anywhere that everybody there has a smile on their face. They're joking, laughing, and it took so much of the stress and so much of the anxiety away from knowing that I was going to have back surgery, just mm-hmm. because they take your mind away from it by playing,
right.
joking, and having a good attitude. Everybody knew what the right hand knew what the left hand was doing. Mm-hmm. When I went from one spot to the next, everybody knew what I was going to be doing. Mm-hmm. They knew I was going to be there. It was just, I just don't have a word to explain it, except for it was very well planned and carried out.
Now, Tim, when they explained to you the procedure and that you would be awake, alert, and aware while the surgeons were actually locating where the pain was and correcting that area, walk us through that once you got into the operating room.
Well, at first, I was really nervous about that because, mm-hmm. You think about somebody cutting on you and you're going to be awake. But actually, I went in, got on the table, had an IV put in, of course, and they gave me a shot, said it's going to burn a little bit. They numbed it out. I didn't feel a thing. And so they got to doing the surgery, and, of course, you feel some things. And he would hit a spot and say, is this where it hurts? No, that's not it. He did another spot. That's where it hurts. No, that's not it. Mm-hmm. Is this the spot? Yep. Oh, that's it right there. And he did exactly what he was supposed to do. He fixed that. After my first procedure, I was able to, 3 hours later, get up and walk for about 30 minutes and didn't have really, I'd say 80% of my pain was gone from the very first surgery.
Now, on the line and before the break, we have patient Tim Turner from the Bonati Spine Institute. He was a Bonati Spine Procedures patient, and or recipient, rather, and he was talking about, falling onto concrete and seriously injuring his back, and then you went to another doctor, he went to do an adjustment, and all of a sudden he re-aggravated a portion of your back that you had thought was resolved. And you had somebody that knew about the Bonati Spine Institute, and they referred you over to us at the Institute. I did have a quick question, though. I know Jeff kind of stepped forward and started asking you more about the surgery, but I had a question. When you were actually speaking with Dr. Bonati and you went through that evaluation phase, why don't you explain that? Do you think, did Dr. Bonati, pretty much nail what your problem was? Was he able to tell you where your pain was stemming from?
Well, I was really shocked because he walked in and the first thing out of his mouth, he introduced himself and said, "Hi, I'm Dr. Bonati," and he helped me up out of the chair and got me up on the table. He goes, "You in a lot of pain?" I said, "Yeah, I'm in a lot of pain." So he sat me up. He said, "Well, let's look at your MRI." And he said, "I don't want you to tell me what's wrong with you. I'm going to tell you." So I was kind of like, okay. And he started looking at it, and he goes, "Oh, well, you have this herniation here and a nerve blockage here, and that's causing you hurt here and here and radiating to here." And everything he said as he went down the list of the 3 discs that I needed fixed was just dead on. He didn't miss a step. In my opinion, I can't think of another doctor that I've seen that absolutely knew and had that much knowledge just by looking at an MRI of exactly where the pain was, exactly what kind of pain it was, and how to address it.
Tim, Dr. Bonati is very bashful and
Humble.
he's very humble, very uncomfortable when we talk like this. But truth be told, Dr. Bonati is simply a rock star in that surgical suite. The things that he does to help people live pain-free is just remarkable.
Hey, Kim, now he's ruining the thing.
We have Dr. Bonati in studio with us, Tim, and I'm always amazed. I mean, I know from my perspective what I see on a daily basis, but from a patient perspective, when you were told by those other doctors that it was going to be a highly invasive procedure that you were going to have to go through, and you were going to have to be on pain meds basically for the rest of your life. I mean, the idea of that must have been grim. And I believe you said you were 44, or you're 44 now. A young man being told that was going to be your reality, and you said yourself, that's not right, and that's not for me. So fortunately, you had somebody that knew about the Bonati Spine Institute, and they referred you here. Let's talk a little bit more about the procedures itself. And you were saying that you were interacting with Dr. Bonati through the surgeries, and that you were feeling pain relief. Would you say that you felt it almost immediately?
I knew exactly when he hit the spot that was hurting. There was no doubt. I wouldn't say while I was on the table I could really tell.
Okay.
It was, but as soon as the surgery was over, they wanted me to roll onto a gurney, and I asked them, I said, "Can I stand up?" And they said, "Yeah, sure, you can stand up." So I stood up, and immediately I knew right exactly then that I was going to be pain-free, because I was able to do something I couldn't do before, which was arch backwards. If I arched backwards at all before, my legs went out from under me, and I was able to arch backwards directly off the surgery, off of the table, and it was just a miracle. And as you were talking about earlier, when I was told the bad news that I was going to be, disabled the rest of my life, that had a great impact on me, to the point I had to even go get on depression medicine. And it just caused so much anxiety that it was horrifying.
Did it make you feel more comfortable knowing that a companion that was with you was able to view surgery?
Oh my God, yes. My better half, Stacy, of course, came for the last 2, and it was just something else to have her there. She's my special person. She takes good care of me, and I think she's my partner in life. And it was just special that she was there, because she was there for my surgery at Duke. She weren't allowed to go in and watch the surgery, but she was there for me and through recovery. And it's just nice to be able to have somebody there that is close to you, that is going to say, "Hey, wait a minute, you're killing him," or I mean, it just gives you a little peace of mind to know that they're there.
Well, Tim, not only do you have relief now, but it sounds like Stacy, like you both have your life back.
Yes.
Stacy's very glad that I'm fixed. She was very grateful, to say the least, that I'm not crying the blues. I'm dying. My back hurts. Will you rub my back? She says finally she gets her back rubbed instead of me.
Well, that works out pretty good. Tim,
You were probably, I think, going to ask the same thing I was. Given the success with your procedures, would you feel comfortable talking about the Bonati spine procedures to others that you meet that might be suffering in spine pain?
I already have. As a matter of fact, I have 2 people that have already called Bonati and are going to be there, one in August and the other is waiting to hear back.
Oh, great.
And I talked to one of my friends last night that works in New Jersey and does servers, and he went for an MRI today, so you'll be receiving his MRI right shortly. I tell everybody I can, quite simply, Dr. Bonati is a perfectionist.
Yes.
After one surgery, he came in and I still had pain, and I could see him get aggravated with himself. He just had that look like, I
determination.
didn't get it right, that's not going to work. And he goes, I'm going to fix you no matter what if I have to operate on you 24 hours. And he meant what he said. He made me feel like he absolutely 100% cared about me, that I weren't just another number or weren't just a surgery that was going to happen. He almost made me feel like I was one of his kids. He took care of me. I just can't thank him enough for what he did for me, because the whole situation was I'm used to doctors being cold, standoffish, and, hurry you in and hurry you out. And he took his time to answer any question I had to ask. He was very good at explaining what was going on and what he needed to do. And I don't know how to say it enough, but if I could, I'd put up a billboard every mile along the highway here advertising for
Tim,
it.
Dr. Bonati wants to say something.
Hey, Tim. Thank you for
Dr.
being the
Bonati.
program, man.
We really appreciate your participation, Tim, and we're so glad you are on the road to recovery and you are back